Our next conversation is the Russia-Africa Energy Summit, which will examine the strategic and mutual benefits of Russia's growing role in oil and gas, set against the G20 backdrop of energy security and sustainability, with a focus on economic ties, infrastructure, and technology transfer. Please welcome our moderator, our executive chairman of the African Energy Chamber, NJ Ayuk. Joining NJ, please help me welcome to the stage Deputy Minister of Hydrocarbons, Equatorial Guinea, His Excellency Domingo Esono. Joining us as well, please help me welcome Deputy Director General for Floating Power Energy Solutions, Rosatom, Vladimir Aptekarev. Also joining the stage is the Vice Director of International Cooperation Department, Ministry of Energy of the Russian Federation, Dmitry Poduev. Next is the Executive Chairperson for Raise Africa Investments, Nosizwe Nokwe Matlamo. Lastly, please help me welcome to the stage Director of the HSE University Center for African Studies, Andrei Maslov. Over to you, NJ.
Thank you. You see, discussions around Russia and Africa, especially high energy industry, have always been fascinating. Fascinating in the sense where from education of many African technocrats, like His Excellency Domingo himself, and also doing projects across the continent, but investments. We've seen Russian investments in countries like Algeria with Gazprom. We've seen Libya with Russians investing Mozambique right now with Rosneft there. At a certain period, Gazprom was in he actually negotiated a deal with Gazprom in Equatorial Guinea, Block U and I think Block T in Equatorial Guinea. We continue to see spirit of investment. And somebody always says, if you want to build a pipeline in Africa, go to Russia. You know, nobody builds a pipeline better than Russia. They had a company, TMK, does it so well. But beyond that, it has been consistent support for the continent when it comes to education, when it comes to training, but also when it comes to issues where African voices are needed. For the most part, we've seen our Russian colleagues always siding with Africa when it comes to our energy transition. When some people tell us not to produce energy, we always get the backing of Russian companies and our Russian colleagues telling us, you know, use your energy, better life for our people. And we've seen what energy means to Russia. We've seen that through gas monetization, where a country that could not, it was a net importer of food in the 90s became a net exporter of a lot of grain and wheat because they could use gas to turn it into fertilizer and ammonia, and they drove up massive agriculture where they're exporting about 40% of food out there. Now, I think this session we're trying to explore what can we learn beyond just the nice, great, fancy Russia, Africa experience. We need to go beyond Akroshka and Bosch. We need to go beyond Uha and vodka now to start saying, I'm always famous of saying, Africans want to get married, Russians just want to date. So I hope that by the end of this session, we're going to get a marriage. But the only problem, I have only one African woman to give, but I think we have a lot of Russian women in here. Where's Malinkaya? Now you might end up finding an African husband here. But before we start, I would like to invite my very good friend, Dimitri, who has always been a staunch supporter of Africa. Il parle très bon français, to give the first opening remarks. Then His Excellency Domingo Esono will provide the next remarks, and then we get into a full-fledged discussion. It's going to be exciting, okay? It's not going to be a boring one. So, Dimitri, you start.
Thank you, NJ. Thank you for inviting me to participate in this session. You are right. We were always next to our African partners and still and will be there when you need us. The Russia-African summits of 19 and 23 demonstrated a firm commitment to advancing our cooperation. Its guiding principles are equality, mutual respect, and pursuit of a fair and mutually beneficial partnership, taking into account the dynamics of global markets. From our point of view, African continent possesses enormous potential underpinned by annual average GDP growth rates that outpaces global figures and rapid demographic expansion. The population is approaching 1 billion people, and a significant share of which are being young people. These objective trends bring to the forefront the importance of developing energy infrastructure, modernizing the existing one, and constructing new generation capacities. And we are here to help you to unlock the continent's rich resource base and ensuring stable and reliable fuel supplies, all essentials that Africa needs. We note the keen interest of our African counterparts in developing cooperation with Russia in different fields, and we have a lot of knowledge and competence in these spheres. Oil and gas, our companies are developing different fields in the Republic of Congo, in Egypt, and different states. The same with gas. We not only do we develop fields, but also keen on constructing infrastructure. We have gathered a solid experience in constructing pipeline in Nigeria in early 2000s, and looking forward to starting our construction of the pipeline in the Republic of Congo that will ensure a stable energy supply for the whole region of Central Africa. We see opportunities to contribute to the stability of fuel supplies on a commercial basis, and we are also always open to negotiations in this field. Given the energy shortages in Africa and sometimes poor coverage of poor access to electricity, we focus on modernizing and building new generation facilities to upgrade outdated infrastructure and reduce power outages during peak demand. Our Soviet and then Russian specialists designed and built major energy facilities, and we are here to help you renew them. We recognize the continent's significant untapped hydropower potential. Russia has everything necessary to conduct assessments, develop master plans for rational water use, and to indicate the best places to put hydropower generation. We also possess every necessary technology to do that. Given the growing demand for environmentally friendly solutions, we invite our partners to consider our competencies and capabilities in this field. We have many different companies. We are keen on solar, wind power, and of course, the new trend that I heard from the speakers this African Energy Week, that Africa is looking to nuclear energy. So we attach particular importance, and that has already been mentioned, to building human resource capacity among our partners. And this creates added value within African states. Our government is ready to increase quotas for students in energy-related fields, and the Russian companies are also contributing to this effort. We recognize that continent is looking for a different, fresh approach to cooperation, and Russia has always advocated and advocates alternative approaches based on the concept of energy justice that I also heard from previous speakers, which resonates strongly with what we are talking nowadays, that we need to grant access to energy to the population at a reasonable price with the accessible resources. And for that, we need to have for every state access to technologies. That's what energy justice means to us. In conclusion, I'd like to emphasize our determination to join efforts in combating energy poverty, ensuring the synergistic effect of cooperation between Russian business and African partners, and building a solid long-term partnership between Russia and the countries of Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dimitri. And I was seeing His Excellency listening very keenly to your remarks. He actually graduated from the Mining Institute in Moscow. So that's a little secret about him that he doesn't say. But so I think, first time I met him, he spoke Russian very well. I hope he's not forgotten, and gave speeches in Russian, and he did a lot of deals. But His Excellency, I'll let you give your opening remarks, and you could also pick on what Dmitry had as his view of where we're going with Africa. See Russian companies here like Rosetti and all of that, with Gazprom Neft. But I'll let you. He's negotiated with Gazprom Neft, so I just nothing else I have to say is with Excellency. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, NJ. I think you've done a very good introductory words to the audience. Yeah, you know that I'm speaking here in two aspects. The aspect related to a person that was trained in Russia at the time. I was concluded my study in Moscow in 1992, and immediately I joined our government in the Ministry of Mines. So since then, I'm working for the Ministry of Mines in different positions and for the government in different positions too. But today, it is a privilege for me to take to take floor during this panel, which is very important for us because we think that the cooperation between Africa and Russia, it had a very strong basement to build up because the human resources capabilities are there. Many of our students and today officials in the governments, they were trained in Russia. And we have that feeling, as personal feeling, that we have we have something to deliver for the benefit of the two nations. That's why when the time come like this, that we must talk about cooperation, I think we feel proud of doing so. For instance, in the case of Equatorial Guinea, I don't want to talk about the entire Africa because the Africa has about 50, more than 50 countries, and every single country has its own specifics. But I want to highlight the experience that we had already gone through in Equatorial Guinea, precisely. As Angie was mentioning before, we've been cooperating with Russia since the Equatorial Guinea have gained independence in 1968. I think the first country that recognized the independence of Equatorial Guinea was Russia, at the time called Soviet Union. Many of our students were trained there, today specialists, today officials of the government. So whoever is coming to the country from Russia, they could speak Russian, even in the street. It's coming by surprise. First of all, Equatorial Guinea is the only Spanish-speaking country in Africa. With that specifics, that the majority of the official in the government, they learn, they study in Russia, they could speak fluently Russian. So that cultural heritage is bare in our heart. And we want to see the heritage to being further developed with this cooperation. And we do expect that today's initiatives in terms of energy, they could boost that cooperation to further being developed. We, at the time, even it wasn't a licensing round was put in place, but Gazprom have approached us. And I was acting at the time as the managing director of G Petrol, the first managing director of GE Petrol. And then we invited them to, an areas, different 2 areas where to offer, Gazprom the possibilities to invest in Equatorial Guinea. That's have gone very well quickly. The contract was signed and everything started moving forward. Unfortunately, maybe the results of the studies didn't show attractiveness for Gazprom. And that's why maybe in 3 years, Gazprom left Equatorial Guinea of today. But nevertheless, we haven't stopped cooperating in other different areas. Recently, we are receiving many of the delegations from different enterprises from Russia looking for opportunities. Now they are always, we have open hands to embrace the Russian investment to Equatorial Guinea. We were looking especially in the E&P activities, exploration and production. Since they have already failed in the previous stage, we do think that actually with the new data acquired in Equatorial Guinea, as we announced it before yesterday, we are going to a new licensing round. We are preparing ourselves to that. And I think we're inviting Russian companies to take a look at which are the new possibilities, the new opportunities that Equatorial Guinea has. In terms of, other sectors, I would not say a lot more about those sectors, but nevertheless, the cooperation is strengthening in the communication. The cooperation is strengthening.
Excellent. I want to interrupt you and I want to ask you about mining. What about mining?
Precisely.
You went to the Mining Institute and you're talking oil. What about mining? You're also Minister of Mining.
Thank you, NJ. I think I wanted to end up with that. Fortunately, that you mentioned that one right now. We are going to undertake what we call a airborne geophysical campaign survey starting from beginning of next month. And after acquiring that survey and interpret it, then we offer for tender almost alongside with the hydrocarbon tender that is proposed by April next year. We would have some blocks to offer. But nevertheless, we still having what we call the open door process. Whether going to hydrocarbon sector, going to, or whether going to mining sector. So whoever is interested, we talk about it before, we have a database which is located in London, in Dubai, in Malabo, for any interested company to take a look at those data in mining sector. What is the potential is there? We were emphasizing, as many of the African countries they are doing that at this moment, the development, maybe the evaluation of the potential in critical, minerals, which I think it become more attractive for many of the, potential investors at the moment. So Equatorial Guinea, even being small country in terms of territory, but nevertheless, we have abundant mining resources there that are under evaluated. And we are going to do that exercise next year. So you are invited to join us to this effort. Maybe the cooperation between Russia and Equatorial Guinea could have benefit from this, new cooperation. We are open to that. And I think companies like Rosatom, I think they have already, come by us, and we are talking about the potential in terms of, radioactive element, etc., etc. So these are the opportunities that we have abundant, and I think we could take advantage. As my colleague from Russia was saying that the technology in Russia, myself, I know how it is in Russia. Worldwide, everyone knowing what Russia is capable to do. Those capabilities are Africa needed. So that's why we're inviting you to come to Africa, and the opportunities are there so that we could continue fostering our bilateral cooperation. Thank you very much.
Vladimir, I'm going to come to you first, but I need to go to my left with Nosizwe. And I know she has to leave early because she had another commitment. And I really thank you for being here. So I tell her she has to be here. It was a little bit of a force, but sometimes you twist the arm a little bit. But she always greets us in Russian, which I always appreciate it. But Nosizwe, you've heard the opening remarks from His Excellency and from Dimitri, and you have been somebody who has you've been head of the national oil company, just like His Excellency. He was the first head of the national oil company of Equatorial Guinea, and you've really you've really worked on a lot of these engagements between our two people. What do you think, in your opinion, can take us to that next level? Because right now you're in the private sector, to encourage businesses from Russia and Africa to do more together. Where do we go from here?
Thank you. Good afternoon to your excellencies and my fellow panel members, and good afternoon as well to the
You can greet them in
participants and
Russian.
delegates.
It's okay. They'll be
Let me see the time.
Yeah, this afternoon.
Oh yes, it is. It's afternoon. Здравствуйте. Здравствуйте.
Добрый день.
Da. What I'd like to actually emphasize, I mean, I'm so impressed with what His Excellency said is being done already in Equatorial Guinea. And I think that is a bold move. And the reason why I say it's a bold move is because, as you know, from all the geopolitical issues, there is a perception about Russia, which is hindering most businesses to actually proceed and do business with Russian companies. And that stems from, as I say, the perception, and it also stems from fear of the unknown. I would like to state that there's a lot of fear of the unknown, given the fact that it's unfortunate that the whole story or the whole situation is not holistically viewed globally. What I would suggest can be done, first and foremost, is that we need to have access as businesses to as much information as we can about the technical and technological developments that companies in Russia have achieved. Many companies, I know the Honorable said that people do know about it, but the noise sometimes overshadows that which is known about the technological and technical advancements. So that's one way of, perhaps through some form of Russia, Africa, the business federations, there's got to be a better outreach to companies in terms of that knowledge. The second thing that I'd like to suggest is that national oil companies have got a lot of access to uh, other national oil companies in different countries. And in this case, national oil companies have got access to Russia's national oil companies, your Gazproms and all those companies, which have got huge knowledge. Our national oil companies have got to ensure that they tighten the ties that they have from a knowledge perspective with those companies. That is an immediate thing that can be done short term. For the medium to long term, because these things take time. For the medium to long term, the issue of exchange of let's say at an at an academic level. Russia's got very good academic institutions from a technical perspective. That exchange, I think, has to be encouraged between, let's say, our universities here on the continent and those universities and those institutions in Russia. Because once you start inculcating that type of breaking of the barriers at that level, these are your future leaders in the different industries that are going to be able to, without fear or favor, state what they have seen and what they have learned. So I think there's got to be a multi pronged approach to these things at a business level, at a technical level, at an NOC level, and of course, at a government level. So, luckily, I suppose for our country, South Africa is a member of the BRICS, and therefore exploiting that relationship, I think, becomes very important at a different, at many different levels. So there's got to be a, how do I put it, a systematic, planned, and multi-pronged approach in terms of getting these things to move closer. Because banks, for example, they need to also to be exposed, because I'm aware that some banks are afraid to deal with companies that have a Russian, let's say, genesis, simply because of the fact that because of the geopolitical situation that we find ourselves in, and the fact that they are partner banks, let's say, in countries that are not having a friendly relationship with Russia. So those are the type of things that need to be overcome. How do you how are you able to, one, break the perception barrier, two, break the barrier of how you can commercially trade with one another? Because for as long as we're not able to get over those issues, we will keep on talking about a desire and an intention, but we're not able to actually physically and practically get through those barriers. We're losing out a lot, NJ. I'm telling you, we are, as African countries, losing out a lot by being channeled as to who you can have relationships with at a business level and at a technological level. So somehow we've got to take that back, take that ownership back, and say, look, we want to trade with so and so. We want to deal with this business. We want to have synergies and not be, sort of chosen with whom must you have synergies with.
Thank you. That's so important, and I really agree with you. And Dimitri, when you go back to Russia next time, tell them to use what's that called? Nikita's Rosexpo or the export centers. They need to be doing a lot more.
Yeah.
There's no reason why Nikita is not here. I like him, but I don't think he's too busy in Russia to not be here, because he should be here explaining how things are done so that Russian businesses like Rosatom and Rossetti need to get the backing to engage with their African counterparts. So you tell him I said that. So take that message very clear to him. But one Russian business that's doing has a lot more. Rosatom has been here in South Africa. They have let me pronounce it right, floating power energy, and they are having floating nuclear power stations using, I don't know if it's SMR or using nuclear to really deal with that. We face in a situation in this continent with a lot of energy poverty issues. Millions of people don't have electricity. I want you to just take us down a road and explain what I'm not so smart, I didn't study this stuff. But explain to us first what a floating nuclear power station is and how we can use that base load cleaner, better nuclear power station to really be able to power communities across Africa that do not have electricity, because energy is life. If they can have electricity, it works. And you've heard about technologies. You have a world-class technology. Can you let us know how that works and how it can be used across the continent to light up Africa?
Thank you so much, NJ. Thank you so much for giving the floor. And
After him.
basically, you just done half of my work explaining this. Like, this is very important, and energy is very important, etc. So it all starts with energy. What is FPU, or nuclear floating power unit? It's a non-self-propelled ship, not self-propelled vessel, a barge with two nuclear reactors on board, two steam turbines, a CPS system, and a crew. And basically, it's a ship that can provide energy where and when you need it. If you'll compare to other solutions or to other nuclear solutions, it is faster. It's still nuclear green base load. nuclear considered green, and at least until 2049, in accordance with the European taxonomy. Base load, and you don't need to have heavy industry or heavy infrastructure to deploy.
How fast can you connect that to the grid in a country?
So around 5 years.
5 years. And what's the capacity? How many megawatts? Let's say you look at the minister from Equatorial Guinea. If he tells you I need that solution right now, and I'm building my industrializing my country, I want to move fast, and I would want to move with more energy. How much capacity can you produce with that solution? But before you answer that question, I'm going to have to let her go if I get in trouble. So thank you so much. We appreciate it.
My apologies. I'm just going to.
It's fine.
Thank you.
So on each barge, we have 100 megawatt of installed capacity. And every year, we can install one more. So like basically, we can add every year 100 more for each site where we are deploying it. Of course, it depends on the demand. Of course, it depends on the request. But still, like we can install 500, 400, 600 because
How
technology is
fast-
scalable.
How fast can you mobilize into a country? Let's say South Africa goes through a lot of blackouts, load shedding. Many African countries are having a lot of blackouts. If a minister calls you and say, I have a problem, I need electricity now, how fast can you mobilize, get there, and make sure you light up that country?
From a point of time when the contract is signed, it usually takes 5 years to bring the first one, and then every year we can add more. Every year. Then, if we have enough of speed, after 5 years, we can add 100, 200, 300 annually. So 5 years is the time. Of course, we're looking forward to find a solution how to expedite, but safety first. In the end of the day, it's barge. It's simple, but it is nuclear, and some technological processes cannot be, let's say, overcome. So that's it. Basically, that's the answer. And like saying or speaking about local industries, all the infrastructure for floating power units, because floating power units are like a car, they are the same. It's like a serial production, but infrastructure is always tailor-made. It's always specifically made for this site, for this country, etc. And for local infrastructure, we always use local resources, local companies, local materials, etc. Everything we can procure and buy locally. So, and we need engineers. We have special training programs, etc., etc. And we bring also not only energy but social economy development.
Thank you. Andrew, I'm going to come to you. We heard from the first three speakers talk a lot about training, transfer of technology, education, and everything, and Russians being able to be competent anywhere in the world. I mean, heck, this guy is a minister. So if he wasn't well trained, he wouldn't be minister. And I remember talking with you, and we struck up a discussion. We said, heck, why don't we have students from the High School of Economics work in Africa? And you said, let's do it. And we did it. And they've performed really well. I can attest for them. They've performed really well. They eat a lot. They eat a lot. You know, where are the two of them? Malinkaya and stand up. They do. They perform very well. They're working in Africa. They spend time here. But I want you to talk to us about the training, the education, and the impact it has with technology transfer, and what these two gentlemen explained to us in the beginning.
Yeah, thank you. Ayuk, thank you for the attention you are paying to the development of Russia-Africa relationship in energy sector, and this this will bring us even more results than those two guys working for Africa Energy Chamber. You know, His Excellency mentioned knowledge being received by the students in Russia, and we are, we write a lot about Africa energy sovereignty. That is what Russia needs, even more sometimes than Africa itself. Because Africa producers contribute a lot to the global markets, but at the same time, Africa imports more fuel than it produces, and the more African countries consume themselves, the more developed the domestic markets, the
I want to
better.
stop you there. Before we started this conversation, you gave me a book. It's called on you talk about prospects and challenges and outlook that you perform. Do you have a copy with you?
Yeah, that's a chapter on energy,
Good.
African resources to African markets.
Can you make sure His Excellency have a copy of that for free, right? And you make sure that minister from Zimbabwe also have a copy for free, right?
Yeah,
You want to charge you to charge me? Okay, I'll pay
yeah.
for it. But it talks about energy sovereignty, getting Africans to produce energy for themselves, but also deals with our challenges. Can we talk about some of those challenges? Because those challenges address also issues that bar business from working out. What are some of the challenges that you had in your research for that when you produced that?
Oh, for example, we calculated how many diesel generators African countries import yearly. And these diesel generators contribute extensively to the power grid, to the not exactly to the grid, but to the capacity, installed capacity. It never counted by even by all those World Bank reports, etc. 10 gigawatts yearly is being imported. Nigeria only imported 14 gigawatts of installed capacity uh, in in small scale diesel generators. So people have, normally they have two in their compound, because if the one is working for like 8-9 hours, it's overheated. Yeah, and you need to switch to another one. So 14 gigawatts, and at the same time they added just less than 1 gigawatt to the national grid within the same 5 years. So if those money spent on those generators being invested properly in the power system, it would take much more impact to the development and to the sustainability. And what we discovered is the lack of data at the disposal of the governments.
Mhm.
So the governments lack information, lack data, lack understanding on what's going on in their own energy systems. Like it happens sometimes that within the country, a huge gas deposit is discovered, but the government doesn't have information about that discovery, because only a private company, only the investor which discovered this huge field, they keep it for the export-oriented projects. But for domestic use, they propose the deposits which are not that.
Maybe you need to be talking to
Right.
Gazprom Neft services. You go out there. Where's Evgeny? Where's he hiding? He stand up. Really smart guy who does a lot around that. Maybe you need to be talking to him and see how you get it together. Okay. But Andrew, if I should stop you there, I want to go back to His Excellency. We see a lot of trade deficit between Russia and Africa. A ship comes from Russia into Africa with food, with fuel, and everything. But you know what's bad? Most of those ships go back empty. So you're seeing a lot more brought in from Russia, but we're not shipping more into Africa, and that's not all commodities. As a minister, and I know you're going to specify only Equatorial Guinea, but as a minister, looking at our entire continent, how do we close that deficit that we can buy, but we can also sell something, right? Mama always said, if you're selling, you're making money, but if you only got consuming, you're always going to be broke. So how do we close our trade deficit so that we also selling stuff and buying stuff at the same time, so we will get a real marriage?
Yeah, thank you, NJ. I think that question is supposed to be addressed to the trade minister.
Now he's a really good
But
politician.
nevertheless, nevertheless, I want to catch up on that, taking the words of the madam panelist that left recently. I think there is certain barriers in terms of human exchange. Indeed, Russia actually is doing a good job throughout Africa with what they call, I think, Russian initiative, something like that, for allowing the two sides to communicate fluently each other, to open the doors to each other so that they could learn better from each other. The thing is that bridging exercise, so that we could know or we could promote what we call the consumer habit. The consumer habit is something that is coming with the time, with the exchange, human exchange, without making sure that between the consumers in Russia and the consumers in Africa, we know better what is needed. It would be very difficult to fill up the ships that are coming to, let's say, uh, import duties to Africa and not going back empty, because we'll know what Russian consumers they need, so that African exporter, they would properly export to Russia what is needed in Russia. So I think we're still dependent, African nations, we're still dependent on imports, not only in face of Russia, but even in face of other, major suppliers in the market. In that case, Africa must to learn from their consumers in different countries, in different continents, so that Africa could export what it has. Another thing is that there are certain other limitations. There were regulation. I don't want to blame on the World Trade Organization, but nevertheless, we have already feel in Africa that there is some discriminatory treatment. But we must to overcome this challenge. And Africa supposed to be open to their markets without many barriers, but today we are facing. That's why the ships are going out from Africa empty.
Excellency, that was very poignant, and it reminds me, I think I got a timekeeper out there. We got 3 minutes. I want each one of you to basically answer this question in 30 seconds. Russia Africa Energy Corporation, where do you see this going over the next 5 or 10 years, and what do you hope it should be? I'll start with you, Andre.
I think, what is the competitive advantage of Russian technologies in African markets? And if I bet, I would bet on digital transformation of the energy sector and enhancing government capacities in the energy sector to control the energy sector and to control their own resources, starting from the digital perspective.
Are you talking AI?
Not necessarily AI, data collection, storage of the data on natural resources, processing of the data on critical infrastructure, protection of the critical infrastructure in the digital aspect. That would be the driver in the next 5 years.
Thank you. Vladimir.
I think it will be a breakthrough within the next years. Well, definitely, we are moving to Africa. We love Africa. We want to be here from a long-term perspective. And we're ready to bring new technologies. And it will be a breaking point. And I hope it will be visible within a few years already. So it will be a breakthrough, whether it will be AI, data centers, agriculture, everything. we have a lot of spheres of cooperation. And using this a few seconds, I want to advise everyone to come to Equatorial Guinea because it's a fantastic country, and there are a lot more than even I think
What you can imagine.
a lot of perspective spheres of cooperation. I mean, for everyone. And sorry for this small discrimination for all other African countries, but you're sitting next to me. I had to do that.
You have to also go to Zimbabwe. Okay, you go to the Victoria Falls, you go to Harare, they'll treat you very well, and they'll make sure you eat good food as well. And go to I don't know, Congo, go to Senegal. Africa is big for everybody. But Equatorial Guinea is beautiful. I live there. I live there. It's a really beautiful place.
Yeah. So it will be very interesting in a few years.
Excellency.
I thank you very much for this compliment. But the thing is, as NJ have already defined the theme of this African Energy Week event, drill, baby, drill. What I wanted to stress to potential investors from Russia in this gathering is that please make the real commitment to African continent.
Bills.
There's so many gaps to cover here. We had already talked about cultural aspect. We have already talked about lack of exchange of people. Almost that is converted into lack of exchange in terms of trade and cooperation. If you are tapping into Africa, we know that we have already done it in the past. But today is another day. It's not yesterday. If you are coming to Africa, do that with strong commitment and leveraging the capabilities that Africa have gained with the time and this openness that Africa has to you to exchange at the same level, knowing that Africa is not anymore the continent where we will come and to exploit and go. Is Africa the continent that actually wants to exchange at the same level for the benefit of the two sides? That is what Africa is expecting from you today. Strong commitment and a changing in the equal basis. Thank you.
Excellency, you're right. You're talking. You have a licensing round which you're launching next year. So I think a Russian company should get ready to bid and get involved in that mining. That's also involved Zimbabwe, a prolific mining jurisdiction with some of the best critical minerals you're going to need for the future, be it platinum, be it copper, be it everything, engaging with them, having full commitment, building local content, that really helps. And I think, you know, why would you not be talking to them? And Rossetti should be talking to Zimbabwe, for example, and even you looking at it's a lot of stuff around gas development, some of the best coal plant developments the Russians have with the technology. So we should be engaging in that and do it more. But Dimitri, I'll give you I left you quiet because I wanted you to listen to all of them, then take a message right back to your people and say, you need to take this serious. You know, like I must be honest, I'm not very happy that we are not having stronger commitment coming in from Russia here because these ministers, you have two ministers here, they have to really see that commitment. We cannot always rally for a stronger commitment when we're not happy, but during good times, we need to be together and we need to drive more trade. So we're going to rely a lot on the Russian government to really engage in that so that we get the business, the private sector to move so that we can get opportunities that benefit both sides and all both our people can benefit. But I'll give you the last word.
So your question was where the relations between Africa and Russia would be in 5 and 10 years. So I think as Africa intends to put its natural resources to the service of people, and when we are talking of energy, we are talking of people, first of all. Russia will fully accompany that noble cause. We will grant you the access at a reasonable market price to the technology and build a genuine energy and technological sovereignty together. Because as our minister says, when you want to hear what energy justice means, and just energy, you should ask an African person who could tell you the best after undergoing the years of deprivations. And it is impossible to create genuine energy and technological sovereignty on its own. So you need to align with your true partners and go together towards this goal. I think that our relations are moving in these directions, and we just need to sometimes give it a pace and sometimes give it a slow.
We need to get married. That's what we need to do. But I want to thank everybody, and I want to thank your minister. He has been amazing to the African Unity Chamber. And Excellency, I'm here to testify that every time I arrive Moscow, the Minister of Energy from Russia makes it a priority to put Africa first, to sit with me, look at African priorities. The Deputy Prime Minister in charge of energy, Novak, has always been consistent on African side with our OPEC Plus meetings, and they've given us that priority, and they've really, really pushed for more Russian investment. So we thank your minister for that. It's a true honor, his commitment, and Mr. Kobiakov, the advisor. And with that, can you please help me in thanking this excellent panel for that discussion? And feel free to sit with them when we're done. Thank you so much.